Well, it's January 27th, 2018, and I'm back in California to work on Brian's layout again. After I left last time, the guys put a temporary horseshoe curve in here so that Brian has been able to run trains. This peninsula was also hooked up. There was 2 pieces of track missing when I left last time. Other than that, the layout is basically as it was when we last saw it. The plan this time is to start in this area and work my way down, finishing this scenery, go across the head of the peninsula and into the area where I just started working on last time. And once I get around there, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to be going. There's 2 areas, well, there's 2 major areas I still have to do scenery on. That's the new peninsula and this one here, which is going to hit a coal mine in the middle. Anyway, it's about 7 AM. I have around 3 hours before the other guys get here. So let's get busy. With this last peninsula being installed in the area that I was working, I've got nowhere to mix plaster now. So what I'm going to do is build a shelf underneath it, make a workbench, a bit like what I did on my own layout. I don't have the wood available right now, so I'm not going to be able to start with that. But as soon as it gets here, that will be one of my top priorities. 2 days have now passed. I didn't make a recording yesterday morning, mainly because the first day I didn't get a lot of progress. There was just nowhere to work and too many people up here. So I was jumping around all over the place, just doing little bits and pieces wherever I could. Anyway, yesterday I made some serious progress in one of the mountainous areas. So let's turn the camera around and take a look. I've been working on this area adjacent to the trestles that I put in last time. About 10 linear feet, so probably about 25 square feet of scenery. I got all the pink foam stacked up, I got the plaster gauze over it, and I started doing rock castings in this area. Today I'm going to be mixing up a whole lot more plaster and getting as much of this covered as I can. Yesterday I put a lot of plaster on this area. Everything in the camera view right now has already been plastered. Technically some of it was actually this morning because I couldn't sleep, so I came down here for 3 hours, or up here for 3 hours. Did 6 more batches of plaster. So everywhere from the left of the frame now all the way to the river has now been completed. I still have the area in the foreground and this little bit behind the track here, so that should be done today, and then hopefully I will get the initial painting done tonight. I spent the rest of yesterday slinging plaster again. I had hoped to get this scene to the point where I could start putting the colour washes on last night, but I didn't quite get there. The culverts along the front edge of the layout slowed me down. Took a little longer than I thought they might, so I spent most of the afternoon messing around with those. But it's done now. I've got a little bit more plaster work to do. Then I'll probably get some sculptor mould on, get the causeway finished, or get the causeway shaped in, and then I'll put the washes on this evening before I go to bed. I could probably do them later on this morning, but there's no advantage to doing them any earlier in the day because they need to dry overnight before I can do the dry brushing. I might rough in a little bit more of this corner, go a little bit further this way than I had in mind. So let me get the camera turned around and get to work. Well, here's another day's progress in this area. I've lost track of what day it is. I think it is Thursday morning. Anyway, I got this area done by the tunnels, and I've got the first washes of colour on everything. It's basically the brown and grey mixed, the fairly light colour here, gradually fading into a darker grey and less brown, until this area here is almost black rock that he asked for. It'll lighten up somewhat with the dry brushing, but that's what he wanted. I started putting the sculptor mould in all the dirt areas. Didn't quite get that finished last night. The first batch I mixed, I forgot to put the paint in it, so I've got to paint that in situ. And I don't think this is the right colour here, so I'm just going to paint it all over dark brown anyway. Well, here's one more day's progress. I finished painting the rocks and got all the ground cover in. I've also reballasted the track because it wasn't done very well the first time, and also doing the scenery in the area, most of it falls off anyway. I've got the causeway in. I've still got to finish that a little bit. In fact, I'm not really happy with the way the causeway turned out. I wasn't able to screen the rocks. I needed to use all the same size. Unfortunately, there's all different sizes and it just doesn't work. So I might have to strip that off and start again, but then I'm going to have to find more stones to do so, because I don't have any more of that. I have to make a decision on that before I do the lake bed. Well, it's Saturday morning, so I'm exactly a week into this trip. Let's turn the camera around and take a look at the progress so far. On the very first day, I built this workbench under the layout in this point. The headroom is somewhat low, but it's the best option I had. This has been my big project so far. I didn't get to touch this area yesterday. There was way too much moisture in it. Certain areas were still soaking wet yesterday morning, so I left it to dry. I should be able to get back to it today. Yesterday I worked on the area at the throat of this peninsula. I'll go around the other side in a minute and show you over there. But for the most part I've got the rough carving done here. At first I had it all the way across there, fairly decent sized ridge between the two sections. But then I realized that at the back where the multi-tool is, it was an impossible situation as far as drainage was concerned. I wasn't going to be able to get the scene to look right. That's the trouble with spaghetti bowl layouts. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to get the scenery to look believable. So I've put in this little stream. I had to cut away the bench work so I can get it below the level of the town that's going to go next to it. And I have very little clearance on the track below it. I have checked it with an auto rack. It does go through about 3/8 of an inch extra. And under the multi-tool, the stream just peters out. I will hide it behind the scenery so you can't actually see where it ends. And the ridge between here and the tunnel really isn't enough, but what can I do? Let's go around the other side. I stacked up some blocks in this area, cut the fascia down, and I built the tunnel. I had to modify the tunnel portals to get them to fit because the tracks are way too close together. And I got these retaining walls in here. Well, it's Sunday morning, meaning I have one more week here. Yesterday I did a few things. I lightened this area up just a little bit, then redid the dry brushing, I worked on the causeways a bit more. I've still got to do the lake bed, but the rest of this area should now be dry enough to continue. And I worked in this area just to give me something to do while I'm waiting for the other scene. So this area is now all ready for carving plaster. I moved one of these spurs because it was heading right for the ridge, and there was no chance of getting the scenery to look believable with the track where it was. It's better closer to the aisle anyway, it was too much of a reach before. Okay, one more day has passed. I did a few little things in here, like weathering all the concrete, but my main project for yesterday was to get all the rock work, all the plaster carving in this area, probably about 12 square feet. Today's project will be to finish, or to get the other side of this to the same state, and then get all the paint washes on that entire area. So that's a full day. Let's get busy. Yesterday I stayed late and got all the plaster carved in this area and down in front of the bridges by the yard where it wasn't finished, and I got all the wash colours on. Hopefully it's dry enough that I can dry brush it this morning, get the ground cover in, and get this scene up to the same status as this one that I worked on last week. And then I'll be in good shape for getting the entire perimeter of the layout finished before I have to leave. All the way from the swamp in this corner around the outside, across the yard, to here where James has taken over, and he's been working on this area, although he hasn't got a lot of progress. Well, it's Thursday morning, which means I only have 4 days left. I made myself a to-do list last night and it's still 2 full columns long, so I need to get a move on if I'm going to get all that finished in time. Anyway, let me quickly show you what I was up to yesterday. So I did some more work in this area. I got the rest of the rocks painted, got the dirt down and the ground cover in place. I've just got to take the masking tape off the track and vacuum up, and then I will get that track painted and ballasted and get the trees installed. I also put the lake bed in. It's probably still a bit wet, and I weathered this bridge combination across the front. Well, I've still got a piece of track that I realised wasn't painted, so I sprayed that last night and I didn't get that weathered. I will do that this morning. The back bridge, James has something planned for that. I'm going to ask him for a photograph. He wants some very special kind of weathering on it. Anyway, I've got a lot of things to do, so I'm just going to leave it there, and I will talk to you again tomorrow. Well, one more day has passed. I have only 3 days left, but I've locked a fair number of things off my to-do list. I put the trees under these bridges, weathered the abutments and retaining walls. I had a few buildings down here to plant on their foundations. Oh, I finished the pedestal for Railroad Park. And most of what I was doing yesterday has been in this area. I planted all the trees, well, most of the trees in this area. I left some space. I need to be able to get to those bridges to touch up the ballasting at the end of them. Last thing I did before I left yesterday was to glue this bridge in place, hence the ballast cartons weighing it down. I think I did all the ground cover yesterday, or was that the day before? No, I ballasted the track yesterday in here. Painted it first and ballasted it. Anyway, I will get back to work because I've only got 3 days left. So I will talk to you again tomorrow. Well, good morning again. This is my last full day here as I'm heading out tomorrow evening. Milestone for yesterday is I started to pour the water in the lake. Of course, it only got as far as here because I didn't have anywhere near enough. The guy's going to get 4 more boxes today to add to the half a box that I had yesterday. Well, this morning is the last morning of my trip here in California. It's Saturday. I think it is February 10th. Last night I made some cab ride videos on the layout. I had been hoping to go all the way around the full circuit for the first time, but unfortunately the temporary section that had been put in this area here got removed a couple of days ago, and the final module hasn't yet been brought up. That will happen either today or tomorrow. Of course, the first few feet by the door hasn't been done yet. This area has been worked on continually since before I was here on this project, and they haven't made much progress. This is where my scenery starts. I'm missing a few trees here. I'm also missing all the trees in this area here. That's because I don't have all the sizes I need. The boss managed to leave the box containing all my 6, 7 and 8 inch tall trees in Humboldt, Tennessee. So all I had to work with was the 3s, 5s and 10s. I was able to pull enough 5 and 6 inch trees from finished areas of the layout and replace them with different sizes to be able to get this far. I quite like the way the lake turned out. I made a separate video on doing that. I did put a little bit of blue paint in the top layer, but it really doesn't notice. I still have the temporary tape dam. I will pull that off as soon as I turn the camera off. The resin looked pretty blue when I poured it. I guess you have to put more colour in than you think you need. Did the stream a couple days ago. There's an unfinished area here. I probably won't be doing the town. He's having his other guys do the town areas. I totally messed this one up. I got a fair number of little projects done around this area. Most notably finishing the scenery along the front edge here and this river valley. I elected to do this bridge here unweathered, or rather non-rusty. I'm thinking that railroad companies will be continually repainting bridges, so this represents the one that they just recently repainted. The rust hasn't started showing through again yet. I might change it on a future visit. I did a ranch fence along here. Don't know how well you can see it. It's from Fowler, I think. It was a bit fiddly to do, but actually goes together quite well once I got the hang of it. This tall tree here hides the seam where the sky backdrop just didn't match up. There's another one on that first section that you might have noticed. I haven't done anything along here really, except that the water tower is new, So I built a foundation for that and planted that. I added another 50 or so small trees in this area because last time I ran out. I weathered the culvert as well, but otherwise that's all I've done in this area. Looking down into this valley, you can see the water has been poured. I'll go around the other side in just a moment. There's the log pond, now has logs and water in it. Here's the log pond from the bottom. I haven't got any resin in the bottom part of the stream yet. And we still need one more layer of resin in the pond. I don't know whether it needs another layer up there, but I want to trickle some more down the rapids as well. I will probably get that done today. I have a whole lot of little things to take care of. Anyway, that's about it. Hopefully you should have had a good idea of what the layout looks like, and I will be signing off until next time. Oh, I did have the bridge in place last night for the run-throughs, but I had to take it out to pour the second layer of resin in the lake. Hopefully I'll remember to take a photograph of that later. So here we are, signing out for another visit.